little face.
It being 3 p.m., I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Greater Lafourche Port Commission to order, meeting of June 13, 2018. Henri, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? But I'd ask everyone to please stand after for a moment of silence for Mr. Irvin Van Bruce.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Sheremy, roll call, please.
Seat A, Chucky Sherman here. Seat B, Perry Gisclair.
Here.
Seat C, Chris Godet.
Here.
Seat D, Rodney Gisclair.
Here.
Seat E, Curtis Pierce.
Here.
Seat F, Larry Griffin.
Here.
Seat G, John Mellison.
Here.
Seat H, Jimmy Guidry.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Next is, we have a resolution to be read to be adopted after from the board, and I'd like to read it to you. And it says, whereas the members of the Board of Commissioners of the Greater Lafourche Port Commission have learned with deep regret and sorrow of the death of Mr. Irvin Van Bruce on June 8, 2018. And whereas Vin served the community through his contributions in preserving our Cajun heritage and culture, and whereas Vin humbly and proudly served the people of 10th Ward of Lafourche Parish as a member of the Port Commission since 1998, as an appointment from July 1998 to December 1988, then sworn in as specially elected in December 1998. And whereas through his talented contribution and performance in Cajun music, Vin has been inducted into the Nashville Music Hall of Fame, the CFMA Cajun Music Hall of Fame, the Louisiana Hall of Fame Living Legend, and the West Bank Musicians Hall of Fame. And April 25th of every year has been declared as Vin Bruce Day in Lafourche Parish. And whereas it is the desire of the members of the Board of Commissioners of the Greater Lafourche Port Commission to express to Vin's wife, Miss Aline, family and friends their deepest and sincere sympathies during this time of grief and sorrow, and therefore be it resolved by the Commissioners of the Greater Lafourche Port Commission that the members thereof do express to Mrs. Aline, family and friends their sincere and heartfelt regret and condolences as the death of Vin. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be transmitted to Mrs. Aline and family as a small symbol of love and respect from the members of the Board of Commissioners of the Greater Lafourche Port Commission. Motion and a second.
Move.
Move by Mr.
Unanimous second. You might want to do that.
Let's see. Move, a unanimous second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. As you know, Mr. Vin, and I know everybody has something to say about Mr. Vin, but you know, he was a great American, he was a great musician, and he was a great person. And he'll be sadly missed by this commission, his family, and friends. I thank you all very much. Next is approved minutes of the May 9, 2018 regular meeting and May 23rd, 2018 special meeting.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Griffin, second by Mr. Gisclair. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is the Executive Director's report. Mr. Shelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. For myself, taking this opportunity, I would also like to express from my family and that administrative staff and everyone from the staff of the Port Commission, our heartfelt sympathies to Vin Bruce and his family as well. All right, first is the Northern Expansion projects. Northern Expansion Slip C, 939-foot west bulkhead. Angela Picciola, Mr. Larry.
Yes, the contract on this job was sea level. This project is complete. Later on in the agenda, we have the certificate of substantial completion to be approved and change order number 2. Change order number 2 is a deduct of $64,361.70. There is no punch list on this project. It's totally complete.
Any questions?
All right, the Northern Expansion Slip C 939 West Sweep Dredge.
Okay, this project, now know you're dredging and docks, is the contractor. He's completed about 25–30% according to his billing. He's continuing to work. His completion date is July 30th. So he has plenty enough time. He should finish it. I don't see a problem at all.
Any questions?
All right, Northern Expansion Slip C 1,671 feet East Bulkhead, Picciola and Associates.
Yes,
Joe.
Crosby Dredging is the contractor. They've completed all the concrete dead man. They've completed driving all the steel sheet pile, and they completed the steel whaler beam. They are in the process now of installing the pipe bumper on the outside of the bulkhead and installing lightweight aggregate. They are on schedule, or maybe a little bit ahead of schedule.
Any questions for Joe?
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. And mitigation dredge of Slip D, J. Wayne Plaisance Engineers. Andre.
Yes, Crosby Dredging is the contractor. They should be finished up tomorrow,
Okay.
and Friday we will take cross sections to verify payment.
Okay. All right.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Okay, airport projects. Richard.
Yes, as I said in Monday's meeting, that May was our busiest month of the year and our busiest month in of record of past years, with 2,884 operations and 14,183 passengers and over 21,000 vehicles. So airport's doing good. Taxiway lighting and runway LED upgrades, that project is on its clear lean period, and that period wraps up at the end of June. So we're hoping that that'll be the next month will be the last report on that project if things go well.
Okay.
We also, you don't have it? Okay, good. That's all I have, if y'all have any questions.
Okay.
Mr. Larry, go ahead. I just can't wait to hear this.
Can't wait to hear this one. Well, you're going to be proud of me. The reason it's doing so good now is because we have a good manager out there.
Really? Did y'all hire somebody?
Yeah, we hired somebody. Okay, Richard.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, other projects. First is the Section 203 feasibility study with GIS Engineering. Dustin.
Thank you, Chet. Dustin Marlborough with GIS. Chet and Joni and I will be making a trip over to the Corps tomorrow, 10:30, to meet with Mr. Wingate and the Colonel, I believe, discussing the timeline for the review process. We've been in close contact with the folks in headquarters through you guys' representation in D.C., Mr. Banger, and we're expecting good outcomes from this meeting in advance. EIS, we're still waiting on some information, outputs from the Corps and U.S. Fish, but that should be wrapped up, I would think, in the next couple weeks to have that part of the report submitted for both public review and IEPR by probably middle of July. So things are progressing. I think we're going to, once we get into this review process, it's going to be somewhat gut-wrenching in time. You know, you're going to see 45 and 60 days for reviews before we get feedback. But all-inclusive, you're looking probably mid-July to March of probably a 3-cycle of reviews for the report. So we drive into the finish line. We should have the final report in the next 2 or 3 weeks, pending those inputs that we get from the Corps. All the economics, the engineering, all those reports are complete in draft format, fixing to get kicked off our internal reviews, which is one part of the requirements for us to do. But once that's completed, package up and give it over to the government.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Okay, the LA 308 Airport Access Improvements, PCL and Associates.
Yes, in the last couple of weeks, we met with EDA and the parish. they requested some additional information. We provided that to them, and we're waiting for them to give us approval to advertise for bids.
Any question?
All right, thank you, Joe. And the LA1 Phase 2 Leeville mitigation dredge, Angelette Picciola.
Yes, this project is also complete. The certificate of substantial completion has been recorded. And we're waiting on that. It comes off July the 6th. He has some repairs from damaged areas he did with his marsh buggy. He called me yesterday. He wants to wait a couple of weeks. He says he has about 2 weeks of work left on the sweep dredging, and then he would like to use that same crew to do the damage repair. So I told him that was okay, but I'm telling him no later than in July 1 he has to come in. He's been putting this off a little bit too much.
Right. Okay.
Any question?
All right, thank you. Okay, and we have public comment. Any public comment?
I don't know if this is a public comment, but I wanted to make some clarification about the airport project. I'm here today that the airport project at Bayou Lafourche is a very important project, not only for the airport, but for the community in itself. I want to let y'all know that I have 5 personal friends. One is an ex-DA, one is an ex-judge, and the other is an ex-governor, and 2 practicing attorney. They give me advice on what to do and what to say and make sure that everything is legal. Now, I'm talking about for the nothing to do with on the east side. I'm talking about for the west side of Bayou Lafourche. On May the 1st, 2006, Daily Comment, I read that an interview was done by Ted Falgout at South Lafourche, Leonard Miller Airport Corridor, from 3235 to the airport, and being built a bridge by the end of the year 2006. On May the 29th, 2006, received a letter from Mr. James Rome that they would be interested in buying my property. And of course, I returned the letter, said I would be interested in selling the property. Then, Mr. Falgout decided to get an appraisal, which was the right thing to do, get an appraisal. Got an appraisal out of a company out of New Iberia, $542,000 was the appraisal. Appraisal came in, met with Mr. Larry Griffin and Ted Falgout, and said to them that the appraisal was not sufficient for me. As far as I'm concerned, it didn't look right. I said I was going to get my own appraisal. And my appraisal came in at $1,200,000. That's on December 18, 2008. Of course, then Mr. Falgout said, then, well, let's get another appraisal. I said, you'll go ahead and get another appraisal, but I'm going to tell you what it's going to be. It's going to be half, right down the middle, because these appraisal plays game. On January 17, 2009, the appraisal came in at $912,000, which was $288,000 different, which was right down the middle, what we'd anticipated. Now, I looked at the appraisal that he had done, which is done by Acadian Appraisal. The compatible to my house was Mr. Gene Guidry, which was in a subdivision on 308. Has no connection to 308, LA1, or 3235. The second compatible, Mr. Joe Ducey, who was in another subdivision, had no connection to LA1, 308, or 3235. The third compatible was Mr. Kurt Crosby. Now, these all houses had no connection to none of the existing highway that y'all needed to build that bridge to go to the airport. My team, my people tells me, he says, look, Andrew, see, this is not right. You ought to have an appraisal for your residents, and you said you have value on that location, because that location connects 3235, LA1, the Batour, the bridge, 308, and connects the airport directly down the middle. It's a value. And I never brought that up, but, and it was never brought up into an appraisal. But I just wanted to make sure that you all understand, and I'm saying this because 4 of the members that's on this commission right now was not there at present in 2006 or 2008. I just want to bring these information to make you all aware of all this. Of course, in February 2009, the meeting at Port Fourchon told them that it was not, I could not go along with the 912,000. Mr. Parrish Jusclair said, is it negotiable? I told him, sure, it was negotiable. I went back home, made an adjustment to what I thought it was going to be or what we could negotiate. And the meeting on Wednesday, it was told by Mr. and voted by the Finance Committee not to buy the property because the economy was bad. That was told to me, that the economy was bad. So then I just went up to the mic and told at that particular time that I was taking my property off the market. This was in 2009. May 2015, President Charlotte Randolph of the parish of Lafourche wanted to have a meeting with me, and we did. Met with her in Archie. I met 3 times with Archie about getting the insurance and getting the survey started and getting the, whatever it needed to get started to get the thing done. Everything was on plan. But an election came along, and Ms. Charlotte went out, and here comes Mr. Cantrell. So, May 2016, Mr. Cantrell called down, president of the parish. And he told me he would like to meet in reference to the airport corridor project. I'd be too glad to meet with y'all anytime. This was on May 18, 2016. We met Mr. Cantrell, Don Mathern, Daniel Rain, and 2 other parish officials, and Mr. Picciola, and myself. A letter of intent was made. A letter of intent was made, and on May the 19th, I received that letter of intent. On August the 22nd, a proposed ordinance for a supplementary appropriation to proceed to buy the project of $1,200,000 was passed 9-0. This is on August the 22nd. This was in the parish. I'm talking about the Lafourche Parish Council. On November the 14th, 2017, y'all made a presentation. A very, very good presentation. Not only was excellent, but you had Senator Chabert there, you had Truck Jusclair there, you had Chamber of Commerce there. I mean, you have every Tom, Dick, and Harry that had some pull, and we had a stack of letter about that high approving the project. Mr. Daniel Rain trying to introduce a resolution. He couldn't get a second. But they liked the project. Everybody likes the project. But he couldn't get a second to get the project done. Politics at its best. And that's been going on, and it's still going on in the parish. They can't get nothing done. And nothing about it but you guys that I can tell you, y'all did anything wrong. I think y'all did everything perfect. Presentation was fantastic. On December the 17th, 2017, my team said it would be no problem for me to sit down and negotiate with y'all back again, which moves from Lafourche Parish back to y'all. Okay. I came in, I think, in that particular meeting, stated that, gentlemen, I'm open to go ahead anytime you want to. You're welcome to, you know, to proceed on negotiating. They also, during that time, I had friends of mine who was considering or asking me to run for the Port Commission. And I didn't know what to do, but then I decided, and I checked with my team and said, yeah, you can run with it. And the reason for that, because I'm a felony. And I'm putting the cards on the table. I don't have nothing to hide. That I was a felony and I could not run. That was told many, many times. So I did check it out. My team got together, got a legal opinion, and it was no problem for me to run. On December the 25th, 2018, I announced in the Lafourche Gazette that I was running for seat I. On May the 14th, my attorney, Henry Lafourche, met with Chet Chasson to discuss airport corridor project. Henry told me that the port was really interested in still buying my property. But you had a problem because some of the members of the commission felt that it would be a political suicide for the commission because I had announced that I was running for the port. I had announced, not being on the port, had announced being on the port. So I talked to my team. They discussed many things. So I agreed with them and them to write a letter to the ethics board. At present time, I'd like to read that letter and present this letter for the meeting. Meantime, prior to that, I did talk to Chucky. Is that right, Chucky?
You did, and I gave you my word, and I told you I was not doing anything until election was over with. And I don't care what your ethics board says, I go by what my attorneys told you, like I told you on the phone. Your attorneys, I can care less about. One about my attorneys. Now, I'm just telling you, you brought me into this now, don't bring me any further, Mr. Andrew. I was backing your property.
All I'm saying, Chucky,
and all I'm saying is
did I
was backing
talk to you or not?
Yes, I did.
All right,
But
that's all
then-
I want to know.
then-
I'm not pointing any fingers at
Oh,
you,
you are
Chucky.
too right now, because I'm at the point, I'll back your property. Now, you brought my name into this. I'm telling you, best thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut up. Because, let me tell you something, I told you my point. You spoke to other people. Shouldn't have brought my name. I'm part of this commission, you shouldn't have brought my name up. And you could take your ethics board, and you know what to do with it. You should have
I
not
wrote a
brought my
letter
name.
to the ethics board. Dear sir, I've been asked to contact you on the behalf of Mr. Andrew Martin. Mr. Martin has announced his candidacy for the seat of the Greater Lafourche Port Commission. Qualification to set on July 18th, 20th, 2018, and the election is scheduled for November 6, 2018. Since 2006, Mr. Martin has been negotiating with the Lafourche Parish government and the Greater Lafourche Port Commission to sell a tract of land located in Galliana. This tract would connect proposed bridge accessed by Lafourche from 3235, provide directly to the airport. It appears that the Greater Lafourche Port Commission has more interested in purchasing the property. It had been enclosed 2 packs of this letter demonstrating that Mr. Martin has been in negotiating with Lafourche Parish and Greater Lafourche Port Commission since 2006 concerning the sale of the property in question. The reason for the enclosed pact, and this demonstrates that this transfer has been completed long before, or complicated long before, Mr. Martin had decided to announce his candidacy for his seat in the Greater Lafourche Port Commission. My question is to you, when Mr. Martin announced his candidacy for his seat on the Greater Lafourche Port Commission, prohibit the sale of the tract of land to the Greater Lafourche Port Commission, his election of the Greater Lafourche Port Commission, prohibit the sale or to addend a tract to the Greater Lafourche Port Commission. I would like to include this. Well, where would I give this to?
Yeah, give it to our attorney.
Is that a copy?
First of all, I want to,
Is that a copy?
yeah, it's a copy.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank y'all. I'm not here, Chucky, I'm not here to have any
Well,
kind
I'm
of
sorry.
argument with you. I don't have, I
You
don't
just did, because your first words out of your conversation to me was, "Don't tell anybody I'm talking to you." And you bring it up right here. Don't go with that. That was the first words out your mouth. And then you bringing this up and you telling me this? Oh, no, Mr. Andrew. I respect you as a man, and I respect everything else. But don't come and tell me, point me out, when your first words out of your mouth was, and I've been busting my goddamn ass to try to help you buy this property. No, I'm not gonna whoa.
No, the language.
Well, I'm sorry that I got you upset, Chucky.
Oh, you
because-
got me
is
mad,
that-
Mr. Andrew, and I'm very pissed right now. If- I don't care. Best thing,
Well, Chucky, then I am sorry. All I can tell you is I'm sorry that you disturbed you. It didn't mean to be that way.
well,
It didn't mean to be that way, and I didn't want it to be that way.
well, you got
But
it.
anyway, I just wanted to make that clear, and I felt that it needs to be brought out. And regardless of whatever happened as far as the result of the ethics board, a lot of people coming to me and asking me, well, then you can't run for the port because they're going to buy your property, you're going to negotiate a property, you can't run. I am going to be running for the port regardless of whatever the ethics board says. Thank you very much for this. You got any
Andrew.
questions?
There's only one thing that in the first negotiations with the port, which I was just getting on, but just to say the commitment that this commission had for the project was when the 912 and the 1.2, when the commission more or less said, well, we can't pay the 1.2, but in fact, we can take 1.2 and commit to the construction of that highway. And the commission has committed $1.2 million for the construction end. And that has been done. And that's because there was a difference in between the two figures. But I mean, the commitment was here from the commission. We committed the 1.2 to the construction of the highway at that time.
Yeah, when the parish was
I believe we
negotiating.
committed, I believe we
I
committed
understand that.
1.5.
Right.
And I think I brought that out.
Yep.
I brought that out. Y'all went in there and y'all made a presentation at the time to the parish. You buy the land and y'all gonna get X amount of dollars for, to construct the highway. And I understand that.
Yeah.
But I wanna make sure that y'all understand also that I'm running out of filing cabinet. This thing's been going on long for me. Right now, in 2006, if this thing would have done in 2008, we'd been having the money getting ready to build a bridge because it takes 10 to 15 years to get the money, regardless of what it is, on grants or whatever else. It takes that long to get the money. We would be building the bridge by now.
But we are dealing with public funds.
That I know you don't have to tell me
There's just
about the
certain
public
guidelines
funds.
we have to stay in. I hope you appreciate that too, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand all that, Perry. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Next is update on LA1 Coalition.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Traffic on LA1 for the last 3 months has been greater than the same 3 months of last year. In March, traffic was up 8.3% over March of 2017, so that's quite a bit more. In April, traffic was up 3% over April of last year. And in May, traffic was up 3.5% over May of last year. Work on Segment E continues by James Construction Group. The contractor expects to drive their first piles at the beginning of next month. The contractor has 420 work days from May 26 to complete the job. With a push from the coalition, DOTD is continuing to work on needed pre-construction pipeline relocation work in the 8-mile right-of-way between Golden Meadow and Leeville. A meeting was held yesterday with Marquis, which operates various lines that need to be addressed. The coalition continues to meet with state officials, including the governor's office, on the $343 million of funding needed to construct the remaining 8 miles of the elevated highway. A bill offered by Representative Gisclair this past regular session, which had strong support in the House of Representatives with a 71-22 favorable vote, was deferred in the state Senate due to it having an impact on the state general fund. The Senate Finance Committee members do understand the importance of LA1. However, this year, as a policy position, the Senate Finance Committee was deferring project funding bills that had any physical hit on the state general fund as a policy. Even if it was in a future fiscal year, they were deferring it. The coalition is speaking to the state about a federal infra grant application in early 2019. This year, the state elected to apply for a smaller project, and they received a $45 million award for that project. A request this year for LA1 for $138 million of rural application monies was not funded. The program had $12.3 billion applied for, but it only awarded 7% of those requests. We intend to meet with the U.S. Department of Transportation to see what elements of the application might be improved for consideration in the next round of their infra grant program. Any questions?
Thank you, Henri.
Yep.
Next is committee reports. First committee, Executive Committee, members are Perry Gisclair, Chairman, Larry Griffin, Chucky Sherman, John Mellison Jr. First on the agenda is consider approving the request from John W. Stone Oil Distributors to sublease a portion of site GLF 615 to EPS Logistics.
Okay, EPS Logistics is operating on the Allport Services dock facility. They have negotiated a sublease with John W. Stone to extend their footprint by 400 feet with about 4.2 acres of landside. So recommendation is to approve that sublease.
Moved by Mr. Gisclair, second by Mr. Sherman. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is consider approving a new lease with Martin Operating Partnerships combining sites GLF 501-16A, 16B, and 16C.
So as you're aware, they wanted to, Martin Operating Partnership wanted to make some changes to their leases. In reviewing it and discussing with them, it was easier and better to actually do a whole new lease, and recommendation is to approve that.
Moved by Mr. Pierce, second by Mr. Goudet. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is consider approving the landlord agreements with Martin Operating Partnership for site GLF 501-16A, 16B, and 16C.
Because that lease is going to be turning into a new lease, the old landlord agreements have to be updated. So that's basically just following with this new lease, new landlord agreements.
Moved by Mr. Guidry, second by Mr. Mellison. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is consider approving the request from Work Springs International to lease 635 feet. I'm so excited we have a new lease.
Yes.
635 feet of waterfront on site GLF 630.
Okay, so this is a section of bulkhead that we're currently building and is nearing completion. This 1,271 is actually under right of first refusal. So we're taking 635 feet of that 1,271 that's under construction left, and taking this request as a bona fide written offer to the right of first refusal that New Park Drilling Fluids has. So we're taking this as a request for a lease. We just recall we have to turn around and give 30 days to New Park to decide if they want to lease this site or give it up. We fully anticipate that they're going to give up this section for Work Strings International to be able to lease it. Recommendation to approve.
Moved by Mr. Griffin, second by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is consider approving the cooperative endeavor agreement with LA1 Coalition for office space at the Port Complex.
As you're aware, we're going to have the LA1 Coalition utilize an office next door at our complex to work out of here, and so that Henri and I can work more closely together on a daily basis. And this is a cooperative endeavor agreement saying that we will provide that office space and he will work there.
Moved by Mr. Gisclair, second by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is consider approving the advertisement for surplus equipment sales.
Okay, we have several items on our surplus equipment list. On the list, you can see what the minimum bids are. That will be advertised as well. So unless there are any questions or concerns, we recommend approval of this notice.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Mellison, second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Nice looking little buggy there.
Yeah.
Next is Construction and Development Committee. Members are Larry Griffin, Chairman, Perry Gisclair, and Ronnie Gisclair. Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, consider approving change order number 2 from Sea Level Construction for slip C, 939 feet west bulkhead.
All right, we have this change order, and it's for a decrease in $64,361.70, which changes this total contract price and this project to a $5,690,285.30 project. Recommendation to approve.
Moved by Mr. Pierce, second by Mr. Gisclair. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Okay,
motion
next.
carried. Go ahead.
Next is consider approving the substantial completion certificate from Sea Level Construction for slip C, 939 feet west bulkhead.
The project is complete. Recommendation to approve.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Griffin, second by Mr. Mellison. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Next is consider adopting the DOTD resolution requesting authority to advertise slip C, 1,671 feet sweep dredging project.
All right, this is being funded majority by DOTD Port Priority Funds. So the recommendation is to approve this because it basically tells us that we can now we're authorized to advertise for this project.
Moved by Mr. Pierce, second by Mr. Goudet. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Mr. President, completes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Griffin. The next is Finance Committee. Members are John Mellison Jr., Chairman, Jimmy Guidry, Chris Goudet, Perry Gisclair. Mr. Mellison.
Morning, and thank you, Mr. President. We'll begin by, sir?
Afternoon.
Oh, forgot about that. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. President. We'll begin by consider approving payments of May 2018 invoices and recognizing those over $10,000. I'll try to get through this quickly. We have GIS Engineering LLC, $626,034.79, and that's for the Section 203 feasibility study. Item 2, Crosby Dredging LLC, $593,069.52, and that's for mitigation dredging of slip D and bulkhead. Item 3, Magnolia Dredge and Dock LLC, $101,218.90, and that's for slip C, 939 linear feet of west sweep dredging. Item 4, Sea Level Construction Incorporated, $94,269.18, and that's for slip C northern, 939 linear feet of west bulkhead. Item 5, Picciola and Associates, $59,502.63, and that's for slip C Phase 3 sweep dredging, slip C Phase 3, 1,671 linear feet of bulkhead. Airport access road and culvert improvements, and the boathouse permit at the Nerby Collins Marina. Item 6, Aon Risk Services Southwest Incorporated, $41,057, and that is for a service fee. Item 7, Epic Aviation, $29,251.24, fuel for resale and truck rental. Item 8, Vision Communication, $28,722.46, phone, internet, and cable services. Item 9, Education Alliance, $27,000. That is for the on-demand studio production commercial for the Port Fourchon. Item 10, Angelette Picciola, $24,786.67. That's for the Minus Jeremy Senior Road paving. Item 11, American Integration Contractors, $23,269.04, and that is for wireless network, security systems maintenance, camera, and network support. Item 12, Grand Isle Shipyard Incorporated, $20,940.75, contract labor for the airport, limestone for the Chevron lease site. Item 13, Central Safety Incorporated, $17,740, and that is for equipment, decals, and installation for 3 new Harbor Patrol vehicles. Item 14, Bank of America, $16,671.38. That's for port credit card charges. Item 15, Gobert Oil, $14,876.24. Fuel for vehicles and equipment. Item 16, Guardian Computer, $12,697.50 for off-site backups and technical support. Item 17, E&L Enterprises, $12,050, and that's for the limestone and grading of the airport parking lot. That, along with our other expenditures, is $2,379,336.65. And Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion we accept these expenditures.
Moved by Mr. Melanson, second by Mr. Sheremy. Any discussion?
Yeah, item 11.
All right?
You said $23,260.96.
I was going fast, Mr. Griffin. I
600.
appreciate that.
Okay, no problem.
So that's $23,696.04,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
President.
Thank you. All right, no problem.
Bingo.
Any public comment? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Next, we have consider approving the 2017 financial audit, and we have Mr. Mark Felger with Lafourche, who does our auditing reports, to give us a presentation.
Yes, I almost said good morning myself. Good afternoon. I know I was a bit long-winded Monday night, so I'm going to try to make my presentation a little bit briefer, but would still cover the essentials. Okay. We conducted an audit of the Greater Lafourche Port Commission, and we also conducted an agreed-upon procedures engagement mandated by the legislative auditor, and we're going to go over the results of both of those engagements. First of all, in our audit report, we issue a report on the port's financial statements, and that opinion starts on page 1. We issued what is called an unmodified opinion, which is what we refer to as a clean opinion, or the best type of opinion we can give. That says the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States of America. There it went again.
Said you got a chart.
There we go. Okay, yes. It happened both same place Friday night or Monday night. We also issue a report under governmental auditing standards regarding internal controls and over compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. That report showed that we had no findings in regard to non-compliance, and also there were no deficiencies noted in your internal controls. Sometimes we also issue a single audit report. For this year's audit, it was not required because you did not expend more than $750,000 in federal funds. So we issue that report only if you get large federal grants. Okay. Looking through some of the financial highlights, the port has a net position, or what we used to refer to as net assets. Somebody on the Governmental Accounting Standards Board decided that net position was a better term. I don't know if it's more clear or confusing, but basically your net position is your assets and certain other things called deferred outflows of resources minus your liabilities and deferred inflows of resources. In a commercial setting, this would usually be referred to as owner's equity, stockholders' equity or something like that. The bottom line net position or net assets of the port. That's $277.6 million. That's an increase of about 3.7% over last year. Of course, the bulk of that is invested in infrastructure assets at the port, at the seaport and airport facilities. Ooh, we jumped ahead. Okay. We had annual operating revenues of $26.1 million. This is leases and other user charges for port tenants, sales of fuel at the airport, and other user fees for the airport and seaport. That's an increase, or it's a decrease of 5.2% over the previous year, and that is primarily because of the expiration of some advanced improvement rentals that had been fully amortized into revenue, and had, so since the tenant had fully paid the improvement rent, they're no longer paying that going forward. Actually, in most cases, they prepaid the entire amount, and you just included it in revenue over usually a 10-year period of time. Cash and investments at the end of the year totaled $100 million, but $50 million of that is earmarked for the development of Fouchon Island. So it's a good thing that you have the money available to spend on that project. So you will be using a good chunk of that money for the development of Fouchon Island, and you will be doing that based on revenues that the port generated itself and not really at the expense of taxpayers or other governmental entities contributing to that. Operating profits were $4.9 million. This has just to do with the operations of the airport and seaport facilities. Your net income before capital grants and extraordinary items was $9.3 million. The difference between those two is primarily the investment income and ad valorem tax revenues and a small amount of state revenue sharing that you receive. Okay, you did receive $798,000 in capital grants, although we'll see later on that we expended nearly $9 or $10 million, or was it $8 million, in capital expenditures. So most of your capital expenditures are being funded from the port's self-generated revenues. This shows revenues by source, and you can see the great 83% of your total revenues come from self-generated fees, so very, very little is generated from intergovernmental revenues or tax revenues from the people who live within the district. This shows the same information, but over a 6-year period of time, and you can see for all of those years, again, the great majority of the revenues come from self-generated fees. In certain years, you do receive larger capital grants from the state of Louisiana and from the federal government, but the great majority of your revenues come from the fees that you generate on your own from operating the seaport and airport facilities. This shows the revenues by seaport versus airport. The airport is still a very small percentage of total revenues, but it does serve a very important support function for the seaport facilities. Many of the seaport tenants use the airport, so that it's a vital link between the two entities. And even though it's not generating nearly the revenue that the seaport is. The seaport has been around for a much longer period of time as well. Looking at operating expenses, again, this is between Seaport Harbor Police, airport, and administrative costs. Again, seaport expense is the greatest, and most of that is rent paid to landowners and also depreciation on facilities, on infrastructure facilities. Also some maintenance and insurance and other items. Looking at expenses on a functional basis, you can see that about 30% of the money spent by the Port Commission was on capital and construction, 16% on salaries and benefits, 9% on maintenance, supplies, and operation of facilities, approximately 14% on land lease expense, and 24% on depreciation of your infrastructure assets. Other expenses are less than, well, 6% other expenses, and then fuel, oil, and retail items, that's basically the cost of the fuel and other items that you sell at the airport. Okay. A few years ago, we did implement a new pension standard, and we've been watching our pension liability seem to grow every year. This year, I just wanted to show you that the pension liability actually decreased. This is the port's share of the unfunded liabilities of the state employees' pension plan, and also a very small amount for the teachers' retirement plan, because you do have one employee that is a participant in the teachers' plan. But you can see that that liability decreased from $9.3 million to $7.9 million. That represents about a 16% decrease. That is primarily because the pension plan's unfunded liability actually decreased by 10%, and then the port's proportionate share of that liability decreased by an additional 6%. Okay. And this shows what the capital construction expenditures versus capital grants. And you can see that for each year in the last 6 years, we have spent considerably more money on capital construction than we have received in support from state or federal sources, so that the port is, in a sense, self-sustaining itself by being able to construct assets from its own operating revenues. It shows a commitment to good stewardship of public funds by being able to do that. Okay. The new statewide agreed upon procedures was geared primarily for, was mandated by the legislative auditor primarily to look at controls and compliance with laws and regulations. We tested certain areas. It had to do with policies and procedures, board oversight, bank reconciliations, cash receipts and disbursements, credit cards and travel reimbursements, payroll contracts, ethics, and debt service. And based on our procedures, we found that the Port Commission's internal control policies and procedures are well designed and properly implemented. We did find 4 minor issues regarding bank reconciliations, cash collections, cash disbursements, and payroll. Those were primarily due to, in some cases, it was due to just the way the legislative auditor worded the procedure. For example, on bank reconciliations, we believe that the Port Commission's control procedures are very good. You have Chet receives the bank statement unopened. The bank reconciliation is prepared by one employee, and then it's reviewed by Miranda. That would be the recommendation that we would have for most cases, but the legislative auditor stated that it had to be reviewed by someone who had no participation in any bank transactions. Well, nearly everybody has some involvement in bank transactions. The legislative auditor has since reworded that procedure so that going forward, the way it's done here at the port would not be considered an exception. Regarding cash collections, a minor tweak to policies and procedures has corrected the issue we had there. Cash disbursements, a new policy was implemented regarding purchase orders at the middle of last year, and 3 of the 4 exceptions that we had were prior to the implementation of that new policy. The 4th would have been acceptable under your policy, but it didn't meet the way the legislative auditor worded the standard. But we do feel that the port's policy with a small purchase exception is adequate, and it does give proper control over disbursements. And on payroll, there was a minor miscalculation in a termination payment due to using supplemental pay instead of base pay in somebody's calculation of how much they would due on termination. It amounted to $39, which we felt was just an isolated error, and that has been, new procedures are in place to make sure that those calculations are reviewed in the future. So we feel like, overall, we feel that the port's control procedures are well-designed and properly implemented, and we feel that management does a good job of trying to anticipate issues and problems and, assess risks and address those. So we feel that it was a very good report. Every report that we've done had certain results that we had to report to the legislative auditor. The ones that we had here we felt were very minor. We also have another letter that was distributed to you guys today on Laporte letterhead. This is a required communication in accordance with auditing standards, reporting certain information to you about our audit. We do comment on qualitative aspects of the accounting practices, and we feel that the accounting policies that are used by the Commission are described in Note 1, and we did not note any transactions for which there was a lack of authoritative guidance. All significant transactions have been recorded. There also is a paragraph there regarding accounting estimates. Certain numbers that are in financial statements cannot be quantified exactly. They're used, the pension liability, for example, is an estimate. We don't know exactly what those pensions are going to cost because we're projecting out into many years into the future. But we review the methodologies used in making those estimates, and we feel that the Port Commission's estimates are reasonable, and they use sound financial information in making those estimates. We encountered no difficulties in performing the audit. There were no uncorrected misstatements, so we did not find any misstatements in the financial statements that were not corrected in the normal course of operations. We had no disagreements with management regarding the application of accounting policies or procedures. Management did make certain representations to us regarding the audit about the information that they provided to us. The other items sometimes are confusing for most boards. Management did not consult with other accounts. They didn't hear something from us that they didn't like and go out what we call opinion shopping. If they did that, I would have to report that. And then there were no other significant audit issues that we were required to talk about. There's also a paragraph regarding supplementary information. Certain things in the financial statements are there. They're not required as a part of the basic financial statements, but either they're required as supplementary information. So we reviewed those things. You know, an example, there's a schedule of per diems paid to board members that's required. That's the legislative auditor requires that, but that's not a required part of the financial statements. We review those only to make sure that they're consistent with the rest of the financial statements, and they were, and we feel that the manner that management used to prepare those schedules was proper. So that is the end of my presentation. Again, I would like to thank Miranda and the rest of the staff and everybody that is involved in helping us with the audit. This was an extra tough year because of the addition of the agreed-upon procedures. Most of these, most entities got these procedures about halfway through the year, so they didn't even know what the legislative auditor was asking us to do until the year was half over. If they had issued some of these procedures, let's say the year before, certain policies that maybe you didn't have in place would have been implemented in place, and we wouldn't have had the finding. In most cases, though, the legislative auditor did expect nearly all governmental entities to have some findings with these, and we felt that the ones that we had, in most cases, there were over 12 areas that we tested. There were just minor issues with 4 of them. For the most part, we felt like the controls in place are very, very good. But I would like to thank Miranda and Serena and the rest of the staff for assisting us with the audit, and they do a great job. And I think that is primarily because the the tone that they get from the board is that they are to perform their jobs ethically and conscientiously, and I want to thank you guys for that. Also with me is Mickey Simon, who is the senior auditor on the job. I'd like to ask him to just come up and say a couple words.
Thank you. As Mr. Mark stated, my name is Mickey Simon. I'm a senior manager with Lafourche. My responsibility on the engagement was to be on site and supervise the engagement team while they were out here performing the field work, to review our documentation and report, to be the first review. So this was my first year on the engagement, so I also provided fresh eyes to what you guys are doing. And just to communicate this, I was very impressed with the controls that you have in place, and as Mr. Mark stated, the tone at the top, which creates an environment for a high level of financial accountability and transparency. Also wanted to extend gratitude to the board and management, and also especially Miranda and her staff for a smooth audit. As part of the engagement team, it's always, we appreciate a smooth audit too. And we request a lot of information during the audit, and so to see everything pulled timely, that everything is very organized, highly organized, and supports the reported amounts, gives auditors a lot of confidence, quite frankly, at what we're looking at. And so that's just a kudos for the accounting staff. So thank you guys very much.
Anyone has any questions for Mark or Mickey?
I had a question for Mark.
Go ahead, Mr. Larry.
You mentioned about the per diems. It's not required. I didn't catch that.
About?
Per diems.
Per diems? Well, we tested travel reimbursements, but we had no findings there. The port's policy regarding per diems and travel reimbursement is in line with the GSA policy. We tested travel reimbursements, and we found that they were all paid in accordance with policy and all with proper documentation. So we had no findings in that area.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? I'd like to thank Mark and Mickey and their staff for doing a really great job of going through the audited report. I know it's an overwhelming experience, and I'm glad we had a good outcome. Next.
You need to make a motion. You need to approve it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I messed that. No, it's all on me. I messed that up. I'd like to make a motion. We accept the 2017 financial audit.
Moved by Mr. Mellison, second by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
I'm like you, Mr. President. I'm excited we got a new lease. Next, we have consider approving the out-of-state travel and training request. We have Harbor Police Lieutenant Troy Dufresne, Harbor Police Sergeant Mitch Hennessy, and Harbor Police Compliance Coordinator Scott Byron, attending the Z1 2018 User Conference in South Dakota, September 11th through the 14th. Next, we have Airport Manager Richard Osborne, attending the Airport Certified Employee Operations Review Course in Virginia, August 26th through the 31st. And we also have Mr. Osborne attending the NASAO Annual Convention in Oklahoma, September 23rd through the 26th. And I'd like to make a motion we accept the out-of-state travel and training request.
Moved by Mr. Mellison, second by Mr. Gode. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Mr. President, I would like to make a comment on Mr. Vin and hope all the other commissioners do that when I close my report.
I was going to do that on any other day.
Well, let me go ahead and close my report and we'll go from there. That is the financial report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mellison. Next, any other business? I don't know if anyone would want to say. Myself personally, I just want to ask that you keep Vin, Miss Arlene, his family and friends in your prayers. And I'm sure everybody feels the same, but if anybody has anything to say, fine.
I would like to say that my entire time serving on the port when Mr. Vin was one of our commissioners, it was always enjoyable. It was like being with a Hollywood movie star. And my heart goes out to Miss Eileen and her family, because today was Vin's last concert, and it was a full house.
Yes, it was. I'd like to say I'm one of the newer members of the commission here, and Mr. Vin accepted me and helped in the best ways he could. And I would sometimes give him a ride down to Fouchon, and those 35, 40-minute rides with him were quite special. And I shared that with the family today, and they were appreciative of that. And I also want to extend my condolences to him, his wife, Miss Aline, and his family. He'll be missed. Another legend has gone. Thank you.
I served with Vin for the last 20 years, and like he was, being on the board with him was very entertaining, with the stories he tells us and all. And I replaced him on the construction and development. That was his position, and I hope that I can do him proud, to do a good job for him, because that's what he was doing. That was his position. So he was like he was always entertaining. He was entertaining to us down here. Thank you.
I too am one of the new commissioners, and I knew Mr. Vin personally from church and whatever. I'd see him every week. When he wasn't showing up, Miss Eileen would tell me he wasn't doing well. But today, I was blessed, myself and our chief, John Colley, to be able to send him off because we sang for his funeral. And that was an extreme honor for me because he is a legend. But more than just being a legend in the music industry, he was an awesome man, very kind man and a very loving man and a giver. And he helped his community grow through his name. And he put us all on the map. So I extend my condolences also, along with John probably, and everyone in here, to the family and Miss Eileen, because she's going to need it. It's taking a toll on her. But she'll get by because they have a strong family. And just thank y'all so much.
Well, the best one was me. Me and Mr. Vin served together for 18 years. We ran our first election together. I lost by 7 votes to Mr. Vin. Best part about it, I went to his house. He told me that, congratulate him. He said, Dwayne's going to come get you, and we'll be at the camp in 2 weeks, me and you. Sure enough, Dwayne picked me up, and we celebrated for 2 weeks. After that, he said, I'll support you. We'll be together. And ever since then, we've been having fun. So to the family and all, it was very good. But me and Mr. Vin had some good times over here. So I got to admit that part with his family. And he will be missed by his family and all his friends. But he was a good man. And the family, I send my condolences.
I would like to say that, I'm very honored to serve on this board with Mr. Vin over the last 5.5 years. He is a legend. I find myself talking about him in a few places I've traveled to. When I'm representing the board, some people know him, ask about him. I'm going to miss him very dearly. Very great man, a legend in his own kind. So, my condolences to the family and those he left behind. His legend will far outlive him.
I said a thing. Me and Vin have gotten, I say in the last 3 or 4 years, we've gotten really close, a lot closer than we had been before. And we take his little buggy and go ride to the 40-acre behind his house. He's got a little camp back there, and we'd just spend time together, and a kinder person I don't think I've ever met. And miss him I will. I'm already missing him, so I hope that I'm sure that Miss Eileen will be doing fine. She's got a good family.
Again, I think he was a great man, and his legend will always live on. And his family and friends will always remember him. And, today was the last concert, and all his friends were there, and I think everything worked out fine. And he has a strong family, and he has a lot of friends, and Miss Eileen and the family will be needing, not only today, but in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, after everything sets in, that's when they'll need support and prayers. So please keep them in your prayers. Any public comment?
Mr. President, first thing I'd like to say before I adjourn, I want to apologize for my language to y'all in the audience. It was not usual of me. I did disperse, but I will hope y'all accept my apology to the board.
We will.
Apology
Thank you.
accepted.
Already done.
Second.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Moved by Mr. Sherman, second by
I
Mr.
still
Millisell. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.